Okay, we'll move on to item number 6C, the Stage 3 Drought Update. Looks like Ms. Steyer is going to give a presentation today.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Water Commissioners. My name is Kelly Dyer. I'm the Water Supply Manager, and I'll be giving the drought update today. So we will discuss the status of the drought, our water demands, our water supply, brief overview of our current water supply strategy, an update on drought funding, and then also talk about our water conservation efforts. This is a chart of our rainfall forecast. It's produced by NOAA, which is a federal agency. And as you can see, there's equal chances of above or below normal rainfall. However, we are pretty much at the end of our rainy season. So we receive most of our rainfall in the winter months, and then there's little to none in the summer. So I've pulled the 50-year average rainfall at Gibraltar for May and June, and it's only about a half an inch in May and pretty much nothing in June. So at this point, I think we can conclude we're pretty much at the end of the rainy season, and we will likely not be showing these slides going for the next few months in our drought updates. But just as a reminder, our rainfall totals for the year, Gibraltar's at about 119% of normal. Kachuma ended the year at about 129% of normal. And downtown Santa Barbara, we were at 144% of normal. This is a chart of where we've been. So we just experienced the 5 driest consecutive years in recorded history. And here we are in 2017, and this hatched mark is that one storm event we had on February 17th, which was President's Day weekend. We got about 10 inches in one storm. If we had not had that one rain event, we would still be below normal rainfall for the year. This is Kachuma storage. So the green line is the last major drought, showing 1986 to 1993 period, and the black line is our current drought. So you can see we tracked pretty closely to where we did in the last drought, even though this time around it was much more severe. It was drier conditions, we had fewer inflows, and it was also a longer drought. So I think we did pretty well tracking about the same given all the changing conditions at Kachuma with increased environmental requirements. Here we are at where we are today is about half full, 100,000 acre feet. It basically is around the same storage level as where we were a few years ago in 2014 when the drought really started becoming serious. So the drought has improved, but it's far from over. You can see the rest of the state is pretty much out of the drought. This is the U.S. Drought Monitor produced by NOAA, and record wet years in Northern California. So they have too much water. But here we are still in a drought in this area. And I wanted to highlight a note that's on the chart that says that the Drought Monitor focuses on broad-scale conditions and local conditions may vary. That's the case even within Santa Barbara County. So the South Coast still remains in a severe drought. All of the South Coast water agencies are in high-level drought conditions. The city is currently in a stage 3 drought with a 30% conservation target. This shows our water demand. So the dashed line is what we would consider normal water use. The state set 2013 as the year representative of normal, so we're always comparing against that. The blue is our drought target, and in March the target changed from it was 40% and was changed to 30%. That's because the rainfall that we had this year filled up Gibraltar, and we have a partial allocation at Kachuma, which alleviated some of the peaking issues we were anticipating this summer. So, with the drought target changed to 30%, our community is still meeting or exceeding the 40% target. So that is wonderful for water supply purposes. Our 12-month running average is 38%. So we have not seen any sort of rebound in water use at this point. This is our total water production historically. So going back to the 1980s, and you can see this is the last major drought where there was a dramatic decline in water use. And then when Kachuma stopped spilling is when we really consider the end of a drought. So when there was recovery in the last drought, our demands slowly recovered over time, but they never reached what they were in the 1980s. We expect something similar will occur in this time around. A lot of people have made some permanent changes on their properties with their irrigation systems, and so we don't expect an immediate rebound and don't really expect our demands to go back to what they were before. Gibraltar Reservoir currently still full. However, it just recently stopped spilling in May. We continue to maximize our diversions from Gibraltar. The water quality is really good right now. It's actually better than Kachuma. So we've been taking down as much as we can up to our monthly limits. And Kachuma is at about half full. We did receive confirmation of our 40% allocation for this water year from the Bureau of Reclamation. Even though Kachuma is half full, not all of that water is ours. There's some water that's state water, imported water in Kachuma. Some of it belongs to downstream water rights. Some of it is reserved for fish, and there's a minimum pool. So accounting for all of that is complicated, but there was not enough water for a full allocation for us this year. Fish releases have resumed through the Hilton Creek Emergency Backup System. There are about 4 acre-feet a day that are being released for fish to Hilton Creek. You may recall that caused an issue with our state water deliveries were interrupted temporarily because the normal conveyance for delivering water to Hilton Creek is gravity flow, but the lake isn't full enough for that normal gravity flow. So an emergency backup system had to be used, which uses the penstock at Bradbury Dam, which is where our state water comes in. CCWA was able to install a bypass pipeline that goes up and over the dam, similar to what was installed previously, although the length is a little bit longer, coming in at a different location. But our state water deliveries have resumed. So that was just a temporary interruption for about 3 weeks. Emergency pumping barge status, the pumping barge has been dismantled. We don't expect that it will be needed again until 2019. So we continue to monitor our lake level projections and would potentially have to put that back in if the drought continues. So as I mentioned, state water deliveries resumed to Kachuma April 14th, and we continue to maximize deliveries up to capacity. All the South Coast agencies have been delivering water to Kachuma. The city currently has about 2,300 acre-feet of water in storage at Kachuma. The water available to us this year has been our state water allocation. We have an 85% allocation of Table A. Table A is just a table in the contract for our state water project. Defines the maximum amount that could possibly be delivered. The city's Table A is 3,300. So with 85% of that, we now have 2,800 allocated to the city. We also have Article 21 deliveries. These are basically free water when San Luis Reservoir is spilling. It gets reallocated to all of the contractors. So we have received about 600 acre feet, and those deliveries just completed very recently, May 11th. So we don't expect to be getting any more Article 21 water for this year. Metropolitan Water Storage Exchange, this was an agreement that we entered into with Metropolitan when San Luis Reservoir was spilling. Metropolitan, we basically transferred the city's water into Metropolitan's name at no cost. Some of that water did spill, but we expect to get about 1,100 acre feet back, which is great. I mean, the alternative would have been losing all of it. So in total, we have about 4,000 acre feet of the city's water at San Luis at this point. That's in addition to the 2,300 that we have sitting in Cachuma. So just as a reminder, as we've gone through the drought, we've had a number of supplemental water purchase agreements over the years. And when we enter into an agreement with another state water contractor, there is an exchange component. And so to date, the city owes about 6,200 acre feet of water debt owed to AVEC, and that is paid off over a 10-year period. AVEC has indicated that they can take delivery of return water this year, starting in July through December, and they have a delivery schedule that they've provided to us that averages about 200 or 2,000 acre feet per month. So we've been projecting out how much water we might have at the end of this calendar year as we continue to maximize deliveries from San Luis to Cachuma. We would expect to have about 1,800 acre feet left at San Luis at the end of this calendar year. Because San Luis is full, there's a high risk of it spilling again next year. So our strategy right now is to just carry over about 900 acre feet. That's how much we can deliver within 2 to 3 months. So assuming there might be a spill in February of March next year, we think we could deliver all of our carryover before it spills. And then we'd like to use the remaining 900 acre feet to repay AVEC this year. We're also pursuing water purchases to help pay down AVEC water debt. The city of Santa Maria has indicated they have water that's available this year. They have up to 4,000 acre feet available. And Montecito Water District is interested in purchasing 2,000 of that, and the other 2,000 acre feet would be available to the city at a city of Santa Barbara for a purchase price of $225 per acre foot. So we are considering purchasing that water for $450,000 and having it delivered straight to AVEC to pay off some of our water debt. We did budget $1.5 million for water purchases this year. So the combination of, after that deal goes through, the City of Santa Maria will be discussing it with their at City Council June 20th. So an agreement would be executed after that date. We hope to have it in place before July so that we can start returning the water to AVEC as soon as possible. But we would be able to return up to 2,900 acre feet this year to AVEC, and then would be left with 3,300 acre feet of water debt to be paid off in the future. Okay. Groundwater, our wells are all now turned off, so the basins are resting as we are maximizing our use of Gibraltar water. We did have some while the basin is at historic lows, we did have some yield remaining. We estimated it was the basins are at about 30% of capacity. It's a slow recovery process for the replenishment. So based on historical data, we expect it would take about 5 to 10 years for the basins to be completely full, assuming no pumping. So our recycled water treatment facility, it has been in operation and continues to meet all of the demands on our recycled water system. The construction modifications that are now complete, and we still are undergoing software changes to accommodate the new filter cleaning settings. The results of the modification project are expected by late June. So at this point, there haven't been any interruptions on the recycled system. It's been fully recycled water. The treatment facility has been meeting all the demands, so that's been good news. Mm-hmm.
Chair Eckler, a couple months ago, you guys were doing some adjustments to that recycled water plant. Can we get a quick update on the results of those?
Yes, Commissioner Bernie, that was exactly what the modifications project was. Yeah, so it is. What was the? Would you like details on what the project was exactly, or?
No, the outcome.
Yes. So the work, the physical construction work is done. And at this point, they're doing the software changes so that it accommodates part of the changes. We're looking at changing up the timing of the cleaning cycles, using different chemicals to do those cleaning cycles to eke out even more performance. And that's the modifications that they're working on right now. Expect they'll be done by the end of the month. And then what I was getting at in here was that by the end of late June, hopefully we'll have confirmation that yes or no, those modifications were successful. So I'm hoping by the July Water Commission meeting, we'll be able to report out on yes, the modifications were successful and we were able to get to that 2.5 MGD. Mm-hmm.
Sure. On the ground, on the various wells, could you in the future give us a little sense of where those levels are, just to get, the state of the wells, and then because I think it'll be an interesting process to watch that recharge occur, and so give us a little window into that in the future.
Yes, I'd be happy to do that, Councilmember White. We have an agreement with USGS to measure the water levels on a monthly basis. So the data is all on their website, and we can certainly download it and put it in a summary format to bring to Water Commission on a regular basis.
I think a worthy point to mention is that I don't think it would be our intention to wait for the basin to be completely full. I think we'd probably be making modifications to start pumping it before it's completely full and trying to eke out what we believe to be the safe yield from those basins. And so we'll be watching that, because certainly Foothill Basin, we're not the only ones pumping in that basin, and I don't think that anyone else is stopping. So I think we're gonna be wanting to manage that.
Well, and Mr. Chair, just also active recharge could occur if we get flush enough. Then we might even be able to start, forcing some water back into the ground as well, and that would be another neat augmentation to our whole system.
So I'll jump in because I had one that we wanted to circle back around. So you mentioned you use historical data to kind of figure what the timeline would be. It'd be 5 to 10 years till the basin is full back up. Is there not an actual monthly or quarterly or something measurement that actually looks at how fast particular ground basins recharge in the aftermath of a drought?
Commissioner Jordan, we do have a model with the USGS that looked at simulated recovery rates, and it was, what I was quoting was our historical experience, just looking at what happened after the last drought.
Right.
Because we were collecting groundwater level data in the 89 to 92 period. So our water levels are somewhat similar to what they were back then, and it took about 5 to 10 years with very little pumping by the city after that drought.
So we're just kind of relying on, we had this experience in the past, we did actual tests at that time to see how quickly it recharged, and it's a similar situation kind of thing, right?
Right. It's just, from that one experience. I don't recall that we were actually injecting water in at that time. If it was, it's a very limited amount. So if we are able to do a pilot test on injecting artificial replenishment, then we might see the recovery more quickly.
Okay. Yeah, I was more interested really in just how confident we are in the speed of recharge, not without the injection. Just you go through a historical depletion, you get a bunch of rain, you enter back into another period of dryness. You don't really know who's drawing other than the city in a basin, and so we're really relying. The answer is we're relying more on historical data for a similar situation than we are actually taking measurements on an ongoing basis right now, right?
The combination of both, that we're relying on the historical data to estimate where we might go, but we're also tracking it on a monthly basis to see how we compare.
Okay. And so how does that tracking work? Is that some type of sonar assessment of a ground base? How does that, just real quick?
We have about 60 monitoring wells located all throughout the basin, and so once a month they're manually read by USGS.
Okay. And so they're
staff.
just measuring what level it is at that well. Okay, thanks.
Two other comments, Mr. Chair. One is that there was one era of active recharge which probably isn't so available, and that was I think Gibraltar water was put in Mission Creek, and there's a nice chunk of absorption above the paved area in Mission Creek. There were issues around, and Mr. Roebuck probably could give us some history on that, it was like, if we let it happen too much, then we are obligated to keep that creek watered. So we had to stop. I mean, it's one of those, help me situations. But that was an active recharge situation that did occur. And I had another comment that I've forgotten already.
Hey, Councilmember Wright, it's right. I mean, we've looked at that that would be great if we could do that, particularly, making sure that it didn't go all the way down to the ocean, but at least hit that recharge area. But as you mentioned, yeah, you kind of set this precedent. But the other fact is, too, is you start introducing invasive species into the Mission Creek that are in the naturally occurring in the San Ynez watershed, but then you start making that connection, and that, I think, was the ultimate deal killer for why we can't do those diversions.
Oh, and the other point I wanted to make was to look at the Mission Tunnel flow, and it's just enormous. I mean, it just explodes from 23 acre feet to 145, 186. I mean, that's a 1,000%, 800% increase from this funny little rain year that we had. Not a great one, but so that's one of the pieces there is a real connection between that and our groundwater basins, and so I think there could be some more dramatic improvements than perhaps we've measured in other years.
Okay, so our desalination project, major construction is complete. We are in startup and testing phase. Seawater has been circulating through the plant since February. Media filter maturation is nearly complete. We're so close. It could be any day. We're currently waiting on the start of the 14-day acceptance testing. Operators are making adjustments to water conditioning equipment, and they're fine-tuning the UV disinfection equipment, but we expect it could be a very short period of time before desal is going into the system.
So I wanted to add something. It's been interesting. The IDE staff are very optimistic about getting operating, but there are a lot of challenges. This is an incredibly complicated facility, and in itself, it has many different processes that all have to get along and be working uniformly. And so I guess what I kind of wanted to do today was kind of slow everything down in some sense and say, and when Ms. Dyer said is accurate, it could happen. It could happen next week that the facility, everything is working, but it could take longer. And I think that's been part of the challenge. The staff are certainly optimistic, and they're very motivated to get this facility up and running. But it will not be put into the system until not only the city, but the state is comfortable with the water quality that the facility is putting out. And so they are continuing to tweak processes and, and continuing to feed me optimism about how they're going to get it up and running. But I think at this point is when we do get to a point that the water meets regulation, is ready to go in the system, we will certainly be communicating with the public and the Water Commission and the council and letting everybody know what's going on. But at this point, I keep getting calls, a lot of calls from the media. Is it happening yet? Is it happening yet? And I share their enthusiasm. I share the excitement. And I don't think anything, for anybody who's been involved in a wrap-up of a project and start of something, particularly something complicated, it does take time to work through those issues, and nothing so far has been, earth-shattering. Nothing has been, the last issue was the UV lamps. They were having issues. They'd shut down, and then, just stuff that manufacturer comes out and says, oh, this is what you need to do. I fixed it. Okay, so now we move on to the next thing. So just stuff like that. And so anyway, I appreciate the excitement. I'm excited about getting the facility up and running as well. But I do think we still need to work through some issues. And like I said, it could happen next week, but it may take 2 weeks. It may take 3 weeks to get up and running. So I think we just have to, unfortunately, be patient. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is our water supply strategy, which we've covered in previous months. Just a reminder that we're 6 years in now. The last time Kachuma spilled was, I believe, May of 2011. So that was what we considered the beginning of the drought. So here we are in year 6, and starting from the top, we have 30% conservation target. And we show desalination coming online for part of this water year. And then we have state water, which is the orange bar. The yellow bars are groundwater. This is what we've used to date, but now our wells are shut down, so this bar will not be growing. And then we have the medium blue, which is a big change this year in our water supply outlook. This is Gibraltar water, Gibraltar and Mission Tunnel. So now that Gibraltar is full, we have that source that we're using for this year. The dark blue is Kachuma. We don't expect to use all of our 40% allocation this year. We'd actually plan to carry it over to next year. So right now, Kachuma serves as a contingency in our water supply for this year. And then the purple is our recycled water. And we continue to plan for 3 years out, assuming continued drought conditions. Status of grants and loans. So Prop 1, Water Desalination Grant Program, we've been waiting for this to come out. The draft guidelines were released April 3rd of 2017. Just a reminder, Prop 1 was passed in 2014, so we waited for 3 years for the guidelines. Up to $73 million is available for construction projects with the max project award of $10 million. And our desal project fulfills the goals and priorities of the program, but there are eligibility concerns in the draft guidelines regarding the timing of the project. And so because our major construction is complete, the grant guidelines are saying it's only for monies that are awarded after the grant award has been given. So we've been raising these concerns for quite a while now with the state, and recently conveyed our concerns in 2 public hearings. We have a letter from the mayor to DWR, have met with Senator Jackson, who is also meeting with the DWR, Department of Water Resources Director, which is the state agency issuing these grants. And then have been working with an organization called CalDesal to write a joint letter. What we're asking for is that they set the eligibility date back to when Prop 1 was passed in 2014. It's not unprecedented. There are other grant programs for groundwater that have similar eligibility criteria of what we're asking for. So our Our comment period was extended to today, and final guidelines from the state are expected in June, but we're hopeful that they will change that language to allow our project to be eligible, because $10 million there's a lot at stake there.
Commission may remember that in 2015, I flew up to Sacramento to meet with the staff in charge of this grant. And at the time when I met with them, they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to have this out in the next 3 months. And okay. And then I kept following up with them, and, oh, well, we have some staffing issues, and, the drought's taking a lot of staffing. I completely understand. I'm in that same boat. But to now use as an excuse for why our project isn't eligible because they didn't have the staffing to get it out in a timely manner seems like an inappropriate way to disqualify. I think we when we went forward, and I think we looked at this, over 60% of the voters in Santa Barbara County supported Prop 1. There's strong support for that proposition because they understood the issues that we faced in this county. And we moved forward with that after Prop 1 passed. And I think we knew that there was money in there for desal. And so now to be told, oh, you don't qualify because you moved too quickly, and we couldn't, and we didn't, seems to be just to be unfair. And I think what's at stake, we're hoping our comments will be incorporated.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to Madeline Warder, Water Conservation Supervisor.
Before you give up the mic, I just have a couple questions. And actually, this was a really good monthly report. I don't know why, but it was really good. Okay. A lot of detail. Somebody was scoping a second pipeline into Kachuma. So I know everything's still running at capacity. Is that still have legs on it, or?
A second pipeline for state water?
State water. I thought somebody was working on that or talking about that in order to increase the capacity for the member agencies that are all running at 24/7, 100%, and getting as much in there as they can, but it's still not enough, right?
I recall that idea being raised, and CCWA was going to look into approximate costs for it, but the original pipeline, I believe, was on the order of hundreds of millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. So it would be pretty expensive to do that.
So that situation where everybody's pulling as much as they can and the pipeline is full is still just what it is, right? Mm-hmm.
Correct. And in normal circumstances, we don't really use much state water. It's really intended for us as a backup supply during droughts and emergencies. But in normal years, when we have surface water at Gibraltar and Kachuma, we're really using a very limited amount of state water and barely using our capacity in those years.
And my other question was on what you see publicly in terms of Montecito Water District's reluctance to participate farther with us in desal. There was a pipeline we were talking about that was part of their and our project to get the water to them up to the Mission Street area or something. And is that pipeline still part of our responsibility to get desal to the upper half of Santa Barbara? And now that will just fall on us, or was that two different issues? Yes,
Commissioner Jordan, thank you for bringing that up. We have put that project on hold because under the current capacity of our desal plant, we do not need that pipeline to move water throughout the system. We have the Padre pump station, which has gone in as part of the desal project, and that will allow us to move what water we will need to in the winter months when demand's low. Really where that pipeline comes into play is if we wanted to convey water to Montecito, and or if the city was contemplating a much larger desal plant, we would need the ability to push that water all the way up to Cater. Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Okay.
I just want to bring up a point that complements what Mr. Jordan was saying, that what I'm hearing as the next increment of supply, the state water system that seems to me to be the most cost effective, and I have no unique insight into it, is that there's capacity in the state water pipeline that goes to Buellton. And there have been efforts made to make a deal with the below Narrows account, the lower part of the Santa Ynez River, and the beneficiaries of that, wherein there's that extra capacity, which is there now, could be dumped into a creek or into even go directly into the Lompoc municipal system. It's better water, et cetera, but some kind of way to take water that now comes out of Cachuma, the water that gets pulled out of Cachuma and run downstream to get to Lompoc. Trade water, trade state water. Lompoc gets that, and we get water out of the South Coasters get water out of Cachuma. It should have happened already, and it's just the next increment of possibility there at the minimal cost. So that would happen before the pipeline occurs.
Chair Kilburn, members of the Water Commission, my name's Madeline Ward. I'm the Water Conservation Supervisor, and today I'm going to share a few slides with you about our annual Waterwise High School video contest. So this contest started in 1999. We are now in our 18th year. We've held it every year since then, and it's a county-wide competition for any high school to participate, and they can submit up to 3 videos per school that are judged by the water providers countywide and also the public for our People's Choice Award. So the students compete to create an entertaining and educational 30-second public service announcement. There are cash prizes that are awarded to the winning schools, and then prizes for the students are donated by local businesses. The winning videos have been used for summer media campaigns as well as playing in movie theaters countywide. And this year our corporate sponsors were Allen Construction, Dudek, Ewing Irrigation, All Around Landscape Supply, Carollo Engineers, Carsey Wolf Center, and the NCM Movie Network. This year we had 17 submissions, and the theme this year was Water Conservation is a Lifestyle. There's 2 screenshots of 2 submitted videos there. The winners this year, the first place winner was Kate School, second place was Bishop Garcia Diego, third place was the Anacapa School. The honorable mention went to Dos Pueblos, and the People's Choice Award went to Kate School. And if all goes according to plan, we should be able to watch the first place video.
Meet Tom. He wastes 40 gallons of water while taking 10-minute showers, wastes an average of 5 gallons of water while brushing his teeth, and hasn't fixed his leaky garden hose. Tom's bad habits pose a serious threat to the drought currently in California. To conserve water, Tom should take shorter showers, turn off the water while brushing his teeth, and fix leaky faucets and garden hoses. For more lifestyle-changing tips to conserve water, visit waterwisesb.org.
Parent tab, probably. Oh, there it is down
there. Just because we have had a lot of
I think that was the second video playing. That's good enough. We can start from there. Okay. So all of the winning videos can be viewed on our Facebook page that we have for the high school video contest. And we are here for any further questions that you have.
All right. Any other comments, questions? No? Super. Thank you. I'll have to go check out those videos. Okay, that wraps up administrative items. So we'll move on to.
I do have
Yes.
one last question, and that is how much project water is in Kachuma now?
We need that bar chart. I keep asking you guys
Yeah.
for that. Let's see that bar chart.
It's a good question. We requested the updated bar chart from the county and had hoped to have it for today's presentation. There are two versions of it. One would be assuming a 3-year look ahead, and one would be assuming a 1-year look ahead, which has varying levels of assumed evaporation and fish releases. So in the next Water Commission meeting, we hope to bring back that chart that you'd seen previously, but it's been modified slightly because of now it's projecting forward. In years past, it was not doing any projections. It was just a status of currently what's in the lake.
Well, what about that 40% too? Can you kind of explain what that corresponds to numbers wise?
Sure. So the total yield of Kachuma, the operational yield is about 25,714, I believe. And so we received 40% of that, 40% of the 25,000 for this water year, which ends in September. October 1st will come around, the beginning of the next water year, and we will be requesting an additional 40% allocation for that water year 2018. So at this point, that's the amount that's available currently would be the 40% now plus another 40% in October. Those estimates were done a couple months ago, so I think we'll want to fine tune or tweak them before we actually do the next request for October 1. It might have gone up slightly with additional inflows to Kachuma, but that's the ballpark of what's available.
What's the city's volume in Kachuma then? 40% of the 8,000?
Yeah, so the city, of the 25,000 acre feet per year total yield, the city's portion of that would normally be 8,277. It's just under 40% is our proportional share of the total yield.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Chair Kilborn, Ms. Dyer was trying feverishly to get this information out of the county without much success. She had several emails into him, so hopefully we'll be successful this next time around. I apologize we couldn't get that for you.
Yeah, it's okay. It's just good to see.
Mhm.
It kind of helps you
We
put
agree.
things in perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll move on to the Water Resources Manager's Report.